But then, Patricia, I think from what you said, then what I would ask is, what do you think is the and I know it's a question that maybe people wrestle with and there's no answer to it. Why then does Africa always negotiate bad? Like, because if you look at the situation from Congo to Zim on the mines to like almost most African countries, they always seem to be getting a bad deal out of China. And why is it so? Like, if you could briefly mention that, and then you also speak about the fact that what you already mentioned, that when China is giving money, it's giving money for a project, but then the project is related to Belt and Road Initiative. So China is almost pursuing its own agenda in giving this finance, and Africa may not be on the same. Of course, we're not part of the Belt and Road Initiative when China came up with. So China is pursuing its own agenda, and Africa is receiving this money, but it may not be benefiting them. So I think it's something to mention that China is giving money to accomplish its own agenda out of China. So if you could speak a bit about that, and also as you mentioned something about like how come that Africa seems to be always getting the shorter end of the stick.
You know, there are causes that are internal and also external. Internally, you always look at the what causes it. Like the political instability, the ill thought out economic policy. They're only thinking about the short term and not the long term benefits of this, financing, this infrastructure financing. It is not spread out through the economy. It's concentrated only in one sector and not spread out across all sectors, relevant sectors. So you're finding that financing is only going towards mostly heavily in infrastructure. And you're asking yourself, there's infrastructure, yes, we have roads, but now what do we do with them? We go sleep in the middle of the roads, we stare at this magnificent building. There's nothing to do about these projects. People are not going to eat on the projects. They won't get medical attention on the projects. They won't get food. They don't have the industries. They cannot sustain themselves to even enjoy the benefits of these huge parliamentary buildings or this really nice, four-lane road. It doesn't make sense. They're what they call these white elephant projects. And then there's excess, it goes with excessive borrowing. There's corruption. It's just inefficiency on the whole, and there's no integration into the economy, the local economy. It doesn't sit within the basis of the economy. It does not support the people, so the people cannot use them. They cannot gain wealth from them. They cannot, you take the example of the Angola model, the resource for infrastructure model that China had taken earlier on before it started reassessing and re-evaluating its model, by saying that we'll take oil and then we'll give you roads. And then what? You don't have money circulating within your economy. You're not building capital bases. You're not exploiting other resources. There is no education, there's nothing. And China is getting oil. It's selling that oil and getting a lot of money from it. And why? You have no foreign capital, you cannot trade, your economy is not diversified, you don't have, you have not even asked to learn how these people are extracting the oil. What are they doing with the oil? Can we benefit from the oil? You don't balance it out. But then you will also look at the creditors themselves. You're looking at China, taking, for example, the Belt and Road Initiative, and also its overall loan policy or its loan behaviors. Their strategies are not very well thought out. The Belt and Road, at this moment at least, despite the fact that China probably has a plan for it, it doesn't feel coherent. It doesn't feel like it's one thing, locked together. It's fragmented pieces all over the continent, and they don't seem like they're doing something, they might be doing something for China, but they feel disconnected from the general, picture, the general idea. I think that's what really puts observers off, and the critics. They see all this activity going on, but what is it for? There's a port here, there's a port there, but there's nothing coming out from Africa. They'll only see what's coming inside, but nothing coming out of it. Africans are still, suffering from poverty. They're still in debt. It's not adding up. But then in that same context, you also have to point a finger at the people who put it there, the system itself. We have been fed on debt. We have been weaned on debt. Ever since independence, the colonial governments were feeding African countries. African countries were not putting out, they were just receiving. So we were weaned on this, we're breastfed on external capital, not from internal resources, like we're just being given. So it's something that has been reinforced over time, and we're used to that. We're just used to receiving and knowing that we'll continue receiving, and we just put ourselves in that position. They label African countries, highly indebted, poor countries, low-income countries. We are labeled in the international system as that. And therefore, there's a protocol for us. So we are used to the status quo, we are the recipients. We have no way of learning to stand on our own 2 feet and to develop our own capacities. And I feel like that is a failing of the international system itself, the international governance system, the IMF, the World Bank, that puts in place these strategic adjustment programs and these initiatives to help highly indebted countries. It is your money we are indebted on. We just keep on coming back for it. And there's nothing to show for it in our countries. So they put there that system, and there's no system to manage. It has only started coming as an afterthought. Since now China is coming as a strong competitor, they're starting to put there these guidelines and these mechanisms and these things so that they can contain it and reinforce the multilateral system, that there's an overall public, governance system that sets the rules and you have to follow them. So now they're just starting to put them there. But to really implement them and to enforce them and to make sure that debt remains sustainable, that governments are borrowing money and using it to achieve the development goals, the reasons why they're going for that money, and not to have the financial burden at the time that comes. Those systems are not really there, and they're not really working.
Okay.
So you have to look at the global financial system itself and the rules it's putting in place. They don't match with what is on ground. They're not training African countries on what to do in case they're in distress. There's no early warning system. It might exist for the creditors. So they'll say, yeah, this country is in debt, and then they rush. They compete for who will pay first. But there's no early warning system for African countries themselves to manage it. So, and even if it's there, it's not broken down and integrated in a way that works and is reinforced. It's not just on paper. It's something that exists within the law. It's something that exists within the documents that are presented when these countries are coming to restructure their loans and to say, we want debt relief, please give us more time, and this is what we're going to do within that time. It's not there. So That is what the answer that I can give you.
Okay.
That is why we're here.
Patricia, I
Yeah.
think I think almost everything you said is such a big thing to think about. And especially the thing to note is that when like the West has been lending money to Africa that many years, uh, it's not that the West is trying to train Africa to become better financial managers. And the thing is that, and even as you're noting, like the debt distress, the mechanisms that you can put in place to actually make a positive impact on Africa, train people, train Africa to be financially prudent and these things. That's not the role of the West. But then again, they wouldn't do that because, in my view, it doesn't benefit them in any way. If Africa is going to become financial prudent, you want to be the one always saying, like we withdraw aid if you don't do this and that. Because, of course, the West stands to benefit by setting up military bases and things in Africa. And the only thing, the carrot is always the aid that they'll give you. And whenever they want something and you don't give it, then they give you the stick. So it's like an entire system where it's for Africa to learn. And the problem then I have is that how many years has Africa been getting debt from the West and everyone else? And we just, for whatever reason, are unable to figure this is how we need to manage debt so that we're not in debt distress and not going around this cycle. But we are not doing that, which I think the things that you mentioned are so true. It's because, of course, we want to keep borrowing money so that the incumbent government can steal it and so that there's corruption. I mean, I think the situation with Africa is that the Africa leaders and Africa policymakers and African people tend to just think in the short term, and corruption rules the day. And then on the other hand, your dancing partner is one who knows you only too well and is only leading you to, like a situation where they can only take advantage of you. So it's just like the only person here who can help themselves when it comes to Africa is Africa itself. And also, I think the other thing with China is that I think the suspicion, especially what you said on the Belt and Road, no one is seeing what's the end goal of China. I think that's the other thing that's putting them in such an awkward position because they built SGR, they built an airport, they built a parliament, they built an Africa Union building. But then, like someone is like, please connect all these dots for us. So there's the people who think it's a long-term plan for like going out policy, and China will eventually benefit by like selling to Africa, and so they're getting the infrastructure ready. But then also you can see like what you said, like in Angola and even Congo, they're already benefiting by getting the minerals out of these countries. And I think the relationship with China gets more complicated when your natural resources are not as beneficial to them or when you don't have them. Because, like for instance, there are African countries which China is not getting any natural resources from them. So I think the only now alternative they get in that case is that they try sell and do these things within the markets. But I don't think China is so short-sighted because when you think about it, all the like construction materials, as you said, there's employment for Chinese people. They're actually benefiting in the moment, even if you're not able to connect all the dots to the end. Like I think here it's Africa who should be thinking more than China. I mean, China, if they were like to just sit down and enjoy their fruit to be enjoyed by them. In Africa, I don't think there's any fruit that you can enjoy.